Some places are built to listen to the silence of space, but no one ever considers that the silence might be listening back, waiting for the right moment to answer. On March 14th, 2019, at precisely 3:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, the universe seemed to hold its breath. In that moment, the International Space Observation Network, a web of hypersensitive electronic ears flung across the globe, registered a sudden and absolute silence from one of its most remote outposts, Relay Station Helix-9. Perched on the desolate, ice-scoured crown of the world in the Canadian Arctic, Helix-9 was a monument to human curiosity. For 11 years, it had functioned flawlessly, a silent sentinel in a sea of white, its sole purpose to dutifully catch the faint whispers of deep space and shepherd the data of polar orbiting satellites. Its work was vital, yet profoundly mundane, until it wasn't. The facility was designed for a 4-person crew, a tight-knit group of specialists working in grueling rotations against the crushing isolation. On the night of March 13th, the station's population was at its minimum. Only 2 souls were on duty, cocooned within the station's metallic shell against the fury of the Arctic night. Dr. Sarah Chen, a brilliant communications engineer with 8 years of decorated service, was the mission specialist. Her calm demeanor was the station's bedrock. Alongside her was junior technician Marcus Levitt, a bright but relatively green addition, just 7 months into his first tour, still not quite accustomed to the profound loneliness of the high latitudes. What follows is not a story, but a reconstruction, a mosaic of terror pieced together from recovered audio logs, fragmented data bursts, and the chilling final entries on Dr. Chen's personal recorder. When a recovery team, battered by a 4-day blizzard, finally breached the station's airlock, they found it in a state of eerie preservation. The facility was pristine. Every system was online, humming with placid functionality. The emergency protocols lay dormant, but the 2 crew members, Sarah Chen and Marcus Levitt, had vanished. This is the chronicle of their final 6 minutes. The first audio fragment begins at 3:41 a.m. The recording is clear, almost sterile. We hear Dr. Chen's voice, a model of professional composure, its cadence steady as she recites a litany of standard telemetry checks. Array 4, nominal. Array 5, nominal. Array 6, signal-to-noise ratio within acceptable parameters. In the background, the familiar symphony of the station plays on, the low, omnipresent hum of the life support systems, the gentle, rhythmic beep of monitoring consoles, and the occasional groan of the station's superstructure as it flexed against the pressure of the wind outside, a wind that sounded like a predator circling the building. At 3:42 a.m. and 18 seconds, the routine is shattered. It's Marcus's voice that cuts through the calm, not with alarm, but with a thread of pure confusion. Sarah,
Dr.
you
Chen,
need to
look at
see
this.
this.
The signal
On
is moving
Array
rapidly, it's
7,
not stabilizing.
there's a beat of silence, then the distinct sound of office chair casters rolling across the polished floor. A soft click as Dr. Chen leans closer to his console. That's not supposed to be there. Her professionalism is a shield, but a hairline fracture has appeared. When did that signature appear? Seconds ago, Marcus replies, his focus absolute. I was running the standard diagnostic sweep, and it just bloomed, popped into existence. It's not matching any known satellite profile, military or civilian. It's a ghost. The recording is filled with the sound of furious typing, a frantic clatter of keys that betrays their calm facades. For several long seconds, When Dr. Chen speaks again, her voice has undergone a subtle but profound transformation. Ever-present, the detached scientist is gone, replaced by something else. Not fear, not yet. It's a note of dawning, chilling recognition, as if she's seeing the face of something she'd only ever read about in forbidden texts. Marcus, pull up the full spectral analysis. I want the entire bandwidth, now. Already on it, his voice is tight. Sarah, this signal is a monster. It's not just strong, it's comprehensive. It's occupying nearly the entire X-ray spectrum, and it's getting stronger by the second. That's impossible, she murmurs, more to herself than to him. There's nothing in orbit that could generate that kind of energy signature, not even a solar flare. She cuts herself off abruptly. The microphone picks up a sharp, ragged intake of breath. What is that? Marcus's voice has climbed half an octave. His question hangs in the air, unanswered. For the next 20 seconds, the control room is utterly silent, save for the machines. But another sound has begun to bleed into the recording. It's insidious, so low on the frequency spectrum that it's felt more than heard. A thrumming, a deep resonant vibration that seems to emanate not from the station's equipment, but from the very air in the room. A bass note that settles deep in your bones. At 3:43 a.m., Dr. Chen's composure finally cracks. She begins speaking in rapid-fire bursts, her words sharp and precise, a desperate attempt to impose order on an impossible situation. I need you to contact Mission Control. Now, use the priority channel. Tell them we are detecting an anomalous signal source. Tell them it's... She hesitates, the words catching in her throat. Marcus, it's not moving. It's geostationary, relative to us. That's not possible, he retorts, his own training rebelling against the data on his screen. Everything in orbit moves. Everything falls or flies away. That's physics. I know what's possible, Marcus, she snaps, her voice like cracking ice. Make the call. The recording captures the faint, distorted sound of Marcus speaking into the communications array, his voice a frantic murmur in the background. But Dr. Chen has turned her attention elsewhere. Her voice is now closer to her personal recorder, low and intense, as if she knows these might be the last observations ever made. Signal strength is increasing exponentially. Source appears to be positioned at an altitude of approximately 400 kilometers, directly above this facility. But there's nothing on visual. Infrared is cold. It's a void. It's only showing up on the deep space array and only in wavelengths that should be scattered by the atmosphere. They shouldn't even be reaching us. She pauses. The thrumming deepens. And then her voice drops to a near inaudible whisper, a phrase that would later haunt every analyst who heard it. It's looking at us. The phrase is a scientific heresy. Dr. Chen's psychological profile was flawless, her performance reviews a testament to her rationality. But in that moment of unbearable pressure, she discarded the language of science for a more primal, terrifying truth. At 3:44 a.m., Mission Control in Houston received Marcus's garbled transmission. They responded with practiced calm, requesting clarification. The voice that answered them was Dr. Chen's. The audio from Helix-9 had started to degrade, a faint, crackling static now clinging to her words like digital frost. Mission Control, this is Helix-9. We have an unknown signal source exhibiting impossible characteristics. It manifested without warning. It is not in any database. It is not adhering to orbital mechanics. And it's getting closer. The duty officer in Houston His mind, running through a checklist of equipment malfunctions, asked her to repeat the last statement. Her reply was laced with a new, raw urgency. "I said it's getting closer. The signal strength is doubling every 30 seconds. At this rate of descent, the source will be at ground level in approximately 4 minutes." The response from Houston was predictable. Standard procedure: run diagnostics, confirm equipment integrity, calibrate the sensors. They were trying to solve an engineering problem, failing to grasp that they were witnessing a paradigm shift. Dr. Chen's reply was immediate, sharp, and utterly devoid of patience. "There is nothing wrong with our equipment. I need you to listen to me. Whatever this is, it is not a satellite. It is not a meteor. It is not an atmospheric phenomenon. It is deliberately maintaining its position directly above this facility. It arrived at exactly 3:42, and it has been descending at a constant, calculated rate ever since." For the first time, a tremor of pure fear enters her voice. "And it's making a sound." Mission Control asked for clarification. Their own instruments were silent. Weather satellites showed clear skies over the Arctic. NORAD confirmed the corridor was empty of all aircraft. From their perspective, Helix-9 was alone in the night. Dr. Chen's next transmission would be her second to last. "You can't detect it with those instruments. It's not present. Not in the way things are normally present. But we can hear it now. We can feel it. Through the floor. Through the walls. Marcus, can you—" Marcus's voice suddenly slices through the transmission, no longer distant, but right beside her, raw, with a terror that eclipses all training. "Sarah, the windows. Oh my God. Look at the windows." The recorder captures a flurry of movement, rapid footsteps on the grated floor, a sharp, metallic clang, and then Dr. Chen's voice, stripped of all authority, all science, reduced to a single, horrified whisper. "Oh, God." Mission Control was now broadcasting in the blind, their voices a frantic, useless chorus demanding clarification. But no one at Helix-9 was listening to them anymore. For the next 90 seconds, the only transmissions from the station were a symphony of dread. The thrumming that had been a subtle, unsettling hum was now the dominant sound, a physical presence in the room. It pulsed in a disquieting, non-mathematical rhythm, a beat that seemed designed to unhinge the human mind. Later analysis would confirm that prolonged exposure to the recorded frequency produced measurable psychological distress, anxiety, and paranoia in test subjects. It was described as a form of sonar, but with complex harmonic overtones that suggested a structured pattern, a language broadcast not in words, but in pure vibration. Dr. Chen's voice returns, but she's not talking to Houston. She's talking to Marcus, her words tumbling over each other in a frantic stream of consciousness. "It's not outside, Marcus. It's not outside. The windows, they aren't showing the outside anymore. That's not the Arctic. That's not anywhere. What is that? What are we looking at?" Marcus offers no verbal reply. The microphone captures a sound from him that transcends language, a choked, guttural noise of absolute primordial terror, a sound that resides in the oldest part of the human brain. At 3:46 a.m., Dr. Chen spoke her final words to Mission Control. Her voice had undergone another chilling metamorphosis. The fear was still a palpable undercurrent, but it was now wrapped in something else, something the psychological team would struggle for weeks to define. The closest they could get was awe, but that single syllable is a pale imitation of the transcendent horror in her tone. "Mission Control. If you can hear this, do not send a recovery team. Don't come looking for us. We're not going somewhere. We're being somewhere else. It's the same place, but it's not the same place. Do you understand? The facility is still here, but we're not going to be in it anymore. We're going to be in the version of it that has always been here, underneath. We never knew. We never knew it was so close. Just on the other side of everything." Houston demanded clarification, their orders becoming pleas. They begged her to maintain the link. Dr. Chen spoke one last time, but not to them. Her voice was soft, eerily conversational, as if she were greeting an old friend who had just walked into the room. "Yes, we see it now. We understand." The thrumming sound instantly peaked, slamming into the microphone with such force that it distorted the audio into a 3-second blast of pure, agonizing noise. And then, silence. When the audio cleared, the familiar sounds of the station had returned. The electronic hum, the gentle beeps, the groaning of the structure. But the human voices were gone. At 3:47 a.m., every single data point from Helix-9 vanished. It didn't flicker or fail. It was simply erased from the network, as if the station and a cubic kilometer of the Arctic around it had been surgically excised from reality for 6 terrifying seconds. Then, just as suddenly, it returned. All systems reported normal operation. Power levels were stable. Life support was optimal. The arrays resumed their silent, sweeping vigil of the heavens. But no one answered Mission Control's desperate, pleading calls. The recovery team that arrived 4 days later described the station as a tomb sealed against time. A coffee mug was still warm in the break room, a plume of steam rising from its surface. A half-eaten meal sat on a plate in the galley. Dr. Chen's personal recorder was on the main console, its indicator light blinking steadily. It had continued to record for 4 full days after the event. The tape contained 96 hours of the station's ambient noise, the hum of electronics, the whir of automated systems, the mournful howl of the Arctic wind, and beneath it all, so faint it was almost subliminal, the thrumming, pulsing irregularly, never, ever stopping. The 7-hour investigation was an exercise in psychological erosion. Every member of the team reported splitting headaches within the first hour. 2 complained of severe visual disturbances, describing fleeting, shadowy movements in their peripheral vision that vanished the moment they tried to look directly. One hardened Special Forces operator, a man who had served in 2 wars, demanded to be evacuated after 3 hours, citing an overwhelming and irrational certainty that he was being watched by something standing just inches behind him. There was no sign of a struggle, no forced entry, no equipment failure. The exterior cameras, which had continued to record, showed nothing but an endless ballet of wind and snow. The windows looked out upon the stark, magnificent, and empty expanse of the Arctic. But in the encrypted files of Dr. Chen's laptop, they found an entry made 2 weeks prior. It was a brief, philosophical musing, marked unusual observation, not for official log. Well, she wrote, "Sometimes, during the night shift, I get this powerful feeling that the equipment isn't looking out into space. I know how insane that sounds, but I can't shake the sensation that we've got the arrays pointed in the wrong direction, that what we're really doing is showing something out there exactly where we are. We're a beacon. We're volunteering ourselves for observation." Below that, a single line was scrawled in the margin, the handwriting shaky, a stark contrast to her usual precise script. What if space isn't empty because there's nothing there, but because what's there learned to be invisible until it's too close to run? Helix-9 was officially decommissioned 6 weeks later. The public report cited structural concerns and budgetary constraints. The equipment was stripped, the building sealed, its location marked for a demolition that has never been scheduled. But the full spectral analysis from that night, the data that made Dr. Chen whisper, "It's looking at us," was classified at a level so high that it is rumored even presidents have been denied access. The official story is a tidy one: equipment malfunction, mass hallucination induced by environmental factors, but it fails to explain why 7 other Arctic Circle monitoring stations have reported fleeting, anomalous X-ray signals in the 16 months since. Brief, terrifying spikes of impossible energy, always during the night shift, always with minimal crew. None have reported missing personnel, but 5 have filed for early closure, citing acute crew psychological stress and unexplained equipment behavior. The thrumming from the recorder remains an enigma. When slowed by a factor of 1,000, the pulses resolve into a complex pattern that one cryptographer noted matches the exact cadence and rhythm of human speech. Not the words, the rhythm, as if something were mimicking the sound of a conversation without comprehension. Or perhaps it understood perfectly and was simply practicing. Dr. Sarah Chen and Marcus Levitt are still classified as missing. Their families were fed a plausible, tragic story of an accident, of 2 people wandering into the disorienting whiteout of a polar storm. But the exterior cameras never saw the doors open. The thermal sensors registered no breach. The snow for miles around the station was a pristine, untouched blanket. They didn't leave. They were recategorized. And somewhere, in a silent structure slowly being buried by snow, the remaining automated equipment still runs. A ghost in the machine, still sweeping the sky, still broadcasting our position to whatever has learned to listen from the space between spaces. The very last entry in Dr. Chen's personal notes, written the day before her disappearance, reads, "I had the dream again, the one where I realized the sky has been inside out all along, and everything we thought was far away has been pressed up against us the entire time, just breathing on the other side of something too thin to be called a wall." She told no one. She filed no report. She just wrote it down, closed her laptop, and went to begin her final shift. The last classified report from the decommissioning team contained one detail deemed too disturbing for any official record. When they sealed the main airlock for the final time, they took one last look at the building. Every single viewport, every reinforced window in the facility was completely opaque with condensation. From the inside, as if in the frozen, empty and powerless station, something was still alive. Something was still breathing against the glass.